as I said before, I was going to do a few films for October leading up to Halloween, because, well, I'm unoriginal and I watch a lot of Cinemassacre's Monster Madness. By the way, I'm looking forward to that sequel-a-thon. Anyway, I'm gonna start off right now with one of my favourite horror films, 28 Days Later. Possibly the most unique zombie film of all time, and we'll never see one like it again, because since it's unique, you can only get something like that in one batch, from what I know. Anyway, my complete summary of 28 Days Later: grim as hell, but awesome at the same time. Okay, so where should I start? Where other than the main star, Cillian Murphy. Now, we don't see Cillian Murphy a lot, and he's usually in like some underrated films, but when we do see him, damn, he is good. He's possibly like the most famous Irish actor I can think of at the top of my head, and possibly and a lot of people would like to say he's one of the only really hot ones. Where's Colin Farrell then? Anyway, since he's Irish and I'm Irish myself in heritage, I just have so many reasons of liking him. And he plays the typical guy in the film who basically is just some guy who gets caught up in the whole thing. He wakes up in a coma in one way which I didn't want to, in a scene that I didn't want to see. And yeah, the first time we ever see Cillian Murphy, he's revealed. Yeah, you see his piss staff. Figure that one out. And he's basically like this kind of, well, everyman, just some guy who gets like caught up in the whole situation. He has no clue what he's going, but he's completely vulnerable. Well, it's no groundbreaking performance, but he still delivers it pretty well. And I do love, and he just does it well. Quite well, in fact, and I really did enjoy watching Murphy in this film. That's about as much as all I can say about the cast, because I don't know the rest of them, and none of them are as memorable as Cillian Murphy. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about the cast. That was pretty damn quick, but then again, I think this review might be done pretty quick. So yeah, what else did I really like? Well, a lot of British films seem to really do this pretty well, because, well, they have a really good way of making it grit. They just like have really good atmosphere with their films, like Snatch and Lock, Stock. They always just have like a really upbeat yet really dark comedic tone. And this film also has like a pretty dark tone, but it's not supposed to be comedic. It's actually, but to be fair, even though it's a zombie film set in London, possibly the greyest city in the world. Actually, no, let me take that back. It takes place in London, but possibly the greyest country in the world. And since... what the hell's going on with the pipes? Zombies, maybe? Yeah, anyway, what I'm saying is, like, since it's in the greyest country in the world, England as we like to call it, I guess the really grainy look of the grainy and dreary look of like everything, and the fact that it's very barren, the whole place, it actually fits quite well, because, well, this is what is going to happen to us when we have like an apocalypse or something, or just in England altogether, when we just like turn into raging psychos. That's what the chavs are going to do. Anyway, it's very heavy atmosphere, and it does feel immersive. But since this is a Danny Boyle film, one of the greatest directors in the UK, that's why it's a very unique zombie film, because believe it or not, there are actually some really cheerful and happy moments in this film. And I'm not talking about just so happy if you just stick that on the refrigerator. No, it's actually got some really happy moments, and they actually really do care about some consequences that do end up happening to some of these characters. Yeah, there's more characters than Murphy, and one of them is played by Brendan Gleeson. He doesn't do much in the film, but it's actually one of his most underrated roles. But when his character gets killed off, no spoilers, sorry. It's actually handled it's actually handled in a pretty actually a pretty sad way with the music, well, it's pretty much just the music that does it, but also the actors, and they do convey like quite a shock and actually have difficulty of trying to like trying to stop him from turning, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's not only like very heavy on atmosphere and creepy, but it also has pretty happy moments, and also pretty depressing moments, and that's saying a lot. Though there's one problem I have with the film. The first half of it was done really well. Like, it was very barren. There were very few characters, only like 5, I think, and some of them even get killed off. But it all happens in like the very empty streets of London. And with the idea that there are like these the infected, as I like to call them, running around the place. Yes, this was one of the first films that introduced running zombies, and it caught the world by surprise. Even though it's a pretty common thing common thing now, but back then it was a pretty new thing, because when everyone thought of a zombie, like, no, these were like different zombies. These were like friggin' fast. Like, they would run, and they would like go after anything that they would that they had a taste for, and that was one of the things that really made them scary, because mostly like back then, the thing that zombies were scary back then, but then then people started to lose like fear in them, because they moved at a snail's pace, and it wasn't as scary to see some man-eating corpse that came back to life and just trying to eat people, and it could only walk and it could only walk slower than a snail. But in this film, this film was like the one where it established, what could we do to make them scary? How about we make them run? And immediately that made it scary, because not only were these things hungry for blood, but they were actually capable of catching up to like their prey. And that was actually a pretty scary part, a few scary parts of the scene. And also, these zombies, they're not really zombies, as they're more like called the infected. Though I do like to call them zombies, because sometimes they are. Because I like to think that they are causes, but mostly they're just like diseased people who, they're pretty much just, it's kind of like the better Resident Evil film, but with none of like okay, let me repeat myself. What it is like London is like has an I know this is a bit late to say this, but just roll it with it. London is now under a pandemic of this virus called the Rage virus. And eventually, like, in 28 days, in the length of a month, they eventually, like, become... What was that noise? So yeah, this is really weird. Like, I'm talking about a horror film, and then... Maybe there's a heater ghost. So yeah, I guess one of the things that makes it... So yeah, in the midst of 28 days, the whole population of England is like down to very small handful of survivors, and I can only assume it's like 5. Excuse me one moment. Sorry for that edit. But anyway, yeah, that's the plot. It's just 28 days later after like some rage virus thing gets loose. Anyway, forget all that, let's just carry on. That was like, yeah, I got a bit carried away there. This might be a bit of a very disjointed review, but bear with me. The first half is actually pretty well done. It's atmospheric, it's quiet, and then it doesn't go for stupid jump scares like Apollo 18 did, but I still liked that film. I changed my mind. And it also brings in the and it also just like shows we're numbered here. There's a population, and the bigger half of it is not friendly, and they want to eat us. And when you think about it, that's actually a pretty powerful first half, and and that first half also has some of those really happy and depressing moments, and that really powerful ones. The second